All right, so today's session, we're going to be talking mostly about account administration. That's where you go to set up users for the system or set them up for your department if you're a manager. We're also going to talk about user access, kind of what that is and what the different types of access look like, and in what situations you would give a certain level of access or not. Then we're going to come back here to the dashboard and talk about this section that's called public processes. I've touched on this just a little bit along the way, but I want to say a few more things about public processes. And then we're going to start to get into the beginnings of process assignment, which is right here. And to demonstrate process assignment a little bit, I'm going to do a recap on all of the managerial processes that we've been talking about that are in our process library. And we'll slowly kind of walk through those again. And I've got quite a few requests to talk about this one a little bit more. This is the strategic planning that I began talking about last week. So we'll go through each one of these. I'll talk about what they are and remind you where to find them, and then I'll demonstrate this again, the strategic planning. So to get to process assignment, you go all the way to the right-hand side of the screen, and there's a wheel icon, furthest one to the right. When you click the wheel icon, you're going to see these two sections, user accounts and account settings. So let's go to user accounts first. If you log into your TouchStone account and you don't see this wheel icon over here, all that means is that you're not an administrator and therefore don't have access to account administration. If you are on the line now and that's your situation, I'd say this session is still useful for you because you'll see, how user access has been set up and maybe how someone has set it up for your department and if that works and why and how to change it. So this is called the user list. And if you've set up users for your system already, you'll see you'll see them listed here on the user list. If you see one set up here, so this very first one next to the key the yellow key, that means that you only have one user set up for your system so far. So if it's blank, then that's a great opportunity for you to go and create users. If you see users set up here, then that means that someone has begun to set them up already. Over here to the right, there's a scroll bar. So you can see I have a lot more users here. So you scroll up and down to see those users. So to add a user, you just hit this little plus sign right here. So right on the left-hand side, I'm going to click add user. The first question is, what type of user do you want to add? So there's basically two choices. There's an administrator, which is somebody who has access to everything in TouchStone and can do everything in TouchStone, including delete things, including being where we are right here. And that gives that person has the ability to go and edit and change other people's access. So be mindful of who you make an administrator. Typically, I would see the owner, the board of directors would be the administrator. Managers would have access to their departments and would have create access, which we're going to talk about, so they can create and edit and change processes on their job, just on their position and also on their employees' positions. But really, an administrator is reserved for either the owner of the company, or another scenario is if you've created a TouchStone power user. So somebody who's kind of in charge of making sure that TouchStone's running from the technological side, is the answer person maybe for questions that come up, can go and reset people's passwords if they can't figure out how to do that. So power user or high level position in the company. So I'm going to choose user right here. So here you'll fill in the first and last name. And then last, this needs to be, a real person's name. Down here is their email address. So if you want to put in real email addresses, because if somebody does lose their password, then the password's going to get sent to this email address. So clearly this isn't an accurate email address. So just know if you do put in fake email addresses, then whoever is trying to get their password when this user does, they won't be getting anything. In addition, this is the email address that is used for process assignment. So when you assign a process to an employee through the dashboard, if you decide to send a notification, then that person gets sent that notification to their username/email address. And again, if it's not real, then they're not going to get it. So put in your password and then hit save. Super easy. You'll see that user fall in alphabetical order on your list. So first name and then last name. Sorry, I'm just looking at somebody's. All right, so once you've made the user, if you want to then edit that user or change any of the content, you just click the name. So you click right here, and then it brings you back to this profile screen. So when I click the name there, I can change the status. So I could make this person now, I could make them an administrator if I wanted to. I could change their first name, last name. Clearly, I could change their email address and also reset their password. So this is good to know because if you do have employees who have forgotten their passwords, you could easily go in and any administrator can change or update the password. So I'm going to close out of this. This little green key here indicates that this person's an admin user. So if you see the little green key, you'll know this person is admin. If you've decided, well, based on what I'm saying, they shouldn't be an admin, then you just click their name here and then hit the drop down to user and hit save. And then their access has been changed to a non-admin user. Okay, so once your users are created, if you look over here to the right, you see this icon here called user access, and then you see the next icon over called control panel. If somebody is a non-admin, they haven't been made an admin, you will go and set their access. If they are admin, like Jack here, you can see that his pencil is grayed out here, and then that just verifies to me that he's an admin user. So the first thing to do is to go to user access for this user that you're working on and hit the little pencil icon. Now I'm seeing my organization chart. You would see your organization chart kind of in this outline view. So what's happening here is you're deciding which position Jack should have access to. So if he's a non-admin user, then you're assigning him some type of access to TouchStone. Access can be read-only or create. Read-only means that whatever we give John access to, he's only going to be able to read it. He can't edit or change anything. He can just read what's there. If we give him create access, that means that he can edit and change what's there. So anything that's been built on his position, any of his processes, he can go and edit and change the content of those processes. He can make new processes and add them to his position. But it's limited to the positions that he's been given access to. So if I give Jack here access to this one, the manager of marketing and sales, he cannot go to the president's position and add processes there and change the content there. All he can do is edit and change what's on his position and the positions underneath him. So if you give someone create access to a managerial position, it's then going to automatically give them create access to the positions underneath them. Now you can go to those positions and change that if you want to. You could make it read only, but it defaults because that makes sense, right? Based on everything we've been talking about, a manager's job is to create, develop, and train with processes. So that's why they would need to have access to all the positions underneath them to be able to do that. So let's go to Jack down here. Let's give him access to his position, which let's say it's customer service. If I click that position, here's where I choose read or create. If all I want him to do is to be able to read what's there on this customer service position, then I choose read and then I hit update. Then you're going to see this position has turned this orange color. So let's say in addition to that, I want to give him access to the bookkeeper as well. So I choose bookkeeper, and let's say he is the bookkeeper and I want him to be editing and changing and creating processes for himself. Then I would give him create access to that and hit update. then you can see with the blue that he now has create access to this position. This can be changed or undone quite easily. All you do is click on this, and now I can remove access altogether, or I could change it to read. Let's log in. So that's user access. One more thing before we're going to log in as Jack, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. But one more thing before we do that. We just assigned him user access right here. And now we're going to assign him a control panel. The control panel appears on the dashboard. So when this person logs in, that's the first thing they're going to see under on the dashboard. They'll see their position there. So if we click control panel, I'm going to go down and give him a control panel. Let's give him a control panel for customer service. When you click the control panel access, it's going to ask you, is John a manager or not a manager? So let's make him not a manager, because if you notice from the org chart, there's no positions underneath him. So then I hit update. And so now if we scroll down here, we can see here that he has a control panel for customer service. If you were to give a person, and you will give people control panels for managerial positions that they fill, like this one, then that gives them management review for the positions underneath them. So on the dashboard, when a manager logs in, they'll first see their control panel, if it's this one, and then they'll see all of their subordinate positions listed under here. So if I have 4 customer support people and they've all been assigned a control panel for customer service, then I would see all of them on my dashboard because I'm their manager. So let's hit done on this. And then let's log in as Jack. And I'm going to refresh my screen here. So this is what it looks like when Jack logs in. Dashboard super clean and simple looking. All he's going to see is his position here, customer service. If he selects his position, he's then going to see his processes all listed here. So this is what I've given him access to. Every process on his position, every process that's been linked to his box on the org chart for all customer service people, for that matter, all appear here on the dashboard. Here, everything is read-only by default. Nothing gets edited or changed through the dashboard. All I can do is click on these and I can see the content in them. I can complete checklists, I can fill out forms, but everything's read-only here. But if you remember, if we go over to the org chart, we also gave him access to, I thought I gave him access to another position. Maybe I didn't. Let's log back out and take a look. So I'm going to close this and then we'll be back. So here's Jack. Let's go to user access. Interesting. So I think it's a log out. I think the problem is I have to log out and log back in. So let's do that and see if that works. Log back in. A lot of times if you're changing access or doing certain things in account administration, if it doesn't appear, like it just happened to me, then try to log out and log back in and it usually sticks. So let's go back to Jack here and let's give him bookkeeper. Staff and then update and done. So now let's log back and log back in as him, and you should see 2 control panels there when we log back in. Here we go, log in. So now this is 2 control panels that he has for this position. And if we go here to the org chart, you would see those boxes illuminated on the chart. Sometimes employees can have multiple control panels if they have multiple positions. So if they fill multiple positions on your org chart, then they're going to have multiple, you can assign them multiple control panels. So I'm going to log back out here and log back in as me. All right. This setup that I have here now also shows you what it looks like when someone has a managerial control panel. So here I have a control panel for this position. And because I have a managerial control panel, I also see management review for the positions underneath me here. So these people have been assigned control panels for the bookkeeper. And because I'm their manager above them on the org chart, I see them here in the management review section. So let's go back here to user accounts. So user access, that's one step. That's deciding what you're going to give that person access to and what level of access, read only or create. And then second step is control panel. So giving them a control panel or control panels for the positions that they fill. So to show you one more thing about this, I'm going to go to my name here and click control panel. Let's say this is a future organization chart, like I've encouraged you to build. And at the time being, I, as the owner, am the board of directors. So I'm going to give myself a control panel for that. I'm the president, so I'm going to give myself a control panel for that. And then I'm also the office manager or the manager of administration and finance, because again, the business is growing. We haven't quite got to a place where we have full-time positions in these roles. So I am those three positions. So if that's the case, I give myself control panels for all three of those positions. And then if we go back here to the dashboard, this is what it looks like. Why this is a good thing to do if you're in this situation is it can help you to compartmentalize the work that you do. So you only have a certain number of hours in a week, and you can't do full-time work for each one of these roles or positions. So your time has to get fragmented or segmented into doing the type of work that each of these roles or positions demand. So through the control panel view, I could look at what I do as the president here. So all the processes on my position, budgeting, creating and maintaining industry contacts. Here's quantification. I do my key indicators, employee management. That was an important one. So I can look at this list of things that I do and say maybe half a day on a Friday, I'm going to do the president work. Once a month on a Tuesday, I'm going to do work for the board of directors. And then because this is the most active role filled with the most employees, maybe I spend 75% of my time on this role. And the control panel, just by clicking into the processes and having priorities for what you want to work on in terms of documentation or managing employees, you can see where it can help you kind of with time management. So let's go back here again. You can also delete positions that you've created or users that you've created, and it's this red X right here. When you delete a user, so I'm going to delete Sam here, it's going to say, are you sure? You say, okay, but nothing drastic happens. He's removed from the active user list. He's gone from here, but he's down here on the deleted list. And we keep these deleted users this way because if you ever want to go back in history and see control panel work like checklists or forms or anything that a former employee did, you can restore that position and see that work because it'll stay forever. So it's just a safety measure to make sure that no data that you've decided you wanted to look at 5 years later, it's still going to be here. Admin users, like Jack, here's an admin user. You can see where the delete is grayed out. This is just like another safety mechanism to make sure that you don't accidentally delete admin users. They're going to fall to the deleted user list and you can restore them, but it's just an extra thing that we've done. So if there's an admin user, you want to take that user and then make him a regular user. So take the admin status away. And then you can go and delete that user and the red X will appear again. All right. So that's the gist of account administration. I think the important thing to do is to set up your employees if you haven't done that already. At the time, for the time being, we're not charging for additional users. It's something that we gave as a gift to our users during the pandemic because we wanted to help people be able to use TouchStone to manage employees that were suddenly having to work from home. And so we made users unlimited. That is still active today. So if you haven't set up users, there's no reason not to. To get this result of training with processes, using processes, having work done consistently and accurately, managing with processes, well, you have to get your employees in TouchStone using them. I mean, that's a prerequisite to it all. If you don't do that, then you're spending a lot of time building processes and procedures that probably will never be used because there's nobody in the system using them. So set up your employees. I think that there's this fear that comes up with this where it's like, well, now I have to train everybody on how to use it, and you're going to get pushback and people aren't going to want to do it. Um, face that fear, challenge yourself, do maybe implement in increments, like small bits. Don't give someone 20 processes and say, here, learn all these now in TouchStone while you're learning how to use TouchStone. Give them one or two processes to learn and to view. Decide on one thing that's going to happen in the department. Maybe it's that building process solutions to frustrations that we talked about a few weeks ago. Maybe it's a simple HR process on your employee handbook or any kind of software how-tos. Choose something that you think is basic and then get your employees involved in using it. The reality of all this is, though, if you have a company that's past 10 employees, say, you need to rely on your managers to help with this too. So this row of managers becomes very important to the implementation and the use of processes in TouchStone or any system, because the manager here should be the one who's training the positions below here and teaching them not only how to use TouchStone, but what it means to be managed with processes. Taking maybe 50% of what they do, or even 25% of what they do, and demonstrating how that rudimentary work can be designed into workflow and into a step-by-step that builds consistency for everybody that does it. So the manager here is responsible for that. This person and in charge and head of everyone else. If you have layers of management like salesperson, sales assistant, this person needs to be helping with the implementation of processes and TouchStone. If this person's the only one who's doing it, and you have the added fact that maybe you're getting pushback from these people, you can see what an unworkable situation that is. You can't just stomp your feet and say, okay, everybody do it. You need support from your team. So getting these people involved in that is just critical, because once the manager gets involved and starts pushing it down to these people here, well, then that's where the change really happens. If you're having issues or feelings about training people with TouchStone, lean on us for that. We have a team that can do one-on-one trainings with your people. We can do group trainings. We love doing stuff like that because it means people are learning how to use TouchStone, which is important. So use this account administration up here to first set up all of your users, and then assign them access to TouchStone. And then maybe send an email out to everyone and say, this is your username and password to TouchStone. Get in, go through some tutorials, take a look at it. We're going to talk about it in our next meeting. And just kind of step people slowly towards it that way.